It's not really.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call?
Trustee Blower,
Yes.
trustee Fisher,
Here.
trustee McGurran.
Yes. All right, we'll open up with public participation. Martha Mel would like to speak to the board first this evening.
I need to.
If you wish, please.
Martha Mel. I live at 2085 Demerit Lane, Hamilton, Ohio. And I just have a few words to say thank you to the trustees, Russ, Keith, and John, for putting that link on our township website where we can go in and look at up and coming zoning meetings, zoning changes, instead of maybe just driving by and seeing a sign or driving by and seeing a bulldozer. And that's happened before. So thank you. I went on and looked at it, and Keith, you look surprised. Did you know you did that?
No, I did not, but I'm going to point down there to that young lady there. She probably had a big part in it. And John.
Everyone, because it keeps, takes the surprise out of things. So that's all.
And thank you, Martha. It was through public participation that all happened. So that's how the whole process is supposed to work, right?
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing it up.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks, everyone.
Procedural actions. Move for the adoption of motion number 23-105 to dispense with the reading of the minutes from the July 6th, 2023 regular meeting and the July 20th, 2023 work session. I need a second.
I'll second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Trustee McGurran,
Yes.
trustee Fisher,
Yes.
trustee Blower.
Yes. Move for the adoption of motion number 23-106 to approve the minutes of the July 6th, 2023 regular meeting. I need a second. Second. Discussion. Roll call.
Trustee McGurran,
Yes.
trustee Fisher,
Yes.
trustee Blower.
Yes. Move for the adoption of motion number 23-107 to approve the minutes of the July 20th, 2023 work session. Need a second.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Trustee McGurran,
Yes.
trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. And next up is Mr. David Brown, Communications Manager for the Butler County Auditor's Office.
Very much. Let me hand out we have three of the
Okay,
last.
that's fine.
Kind of just put that together,
Okay.
share that. So here on behalf of Auditor Nancy Nix, just to give a brief discussion about some of the things that have been going on in the office. Nancy was appointed to the position of county auditor about 6 months ago. And if you've kept up with news at all, you know, there's been a lot on her plate as it comes to the triennial update of property values that our office is mandated by the state to conduct. This year for 2023, we did a full reappraisal in 2020. Property valuation, one of the key jobs of the auditor, as well as weights and measures, and we check all the pumps for quality of fuel or the amount of fuel was correct. And then we set scales that if you go into the grocery stores, you'll see the auditor sticker there that shows that that we're doing our weights and measures responsibilities for the state. There's just a myriad of activity. They always joke that when the tenant didn't know where to give the assignment, they put it on the auditor's plate. So a lot of different roles. Nancy was the county treasurer for about 16 years, I believe, before being appointed. So she's familiar with the tax side of things for county government. And as it is currently, she has been advocating for a change in state law in a couple of different areas because of the impact when you have property value increases and you have kind of the perfect storm in Butler County of 8 out of 10 school districts being at what's called the 20 mil floor, where rates can't adjust when values go up. It makes it a difficult time for taxpayers when values change. Normally, a value adjustment isn't that big of a deal with only inside millage being adjusted. That's just about 10% of your tax bill that would be impacted by value changes. And usually value changes are more in the 8 to 10 to 15% range, not in what we're looking at currently, which as we began hearing from the tax commissioner, the original recommendation, they call it, was 42% across the board in Butler County of value increase. So as you can imagine, everyone swallows pretty hard when they hear that. But in actuality, values currently are well above our last 2020 set of value. And then, as I said, normally that's not really a problem. What we do is equitably align those values. So someone that's in a $150,000 house now, proportionally, if they're in a $300,000 house later, will be paying an equal amount versus everyone else that moved up. So we just want to be fair in a percentage of pie that gets distributed. Unfortunately, when you have this floor situation, the pie somewhat, the pieces get bigger as far as your obligation to pay. And so we continue to go back and forth with the state. We're on I think our third or fourth submittal of an abstract. We continue to try to go a little bit under where they're at, but they haven't moved a heck of a lot, a little bit. We're looking now more like a 39% value increase countywide versus the original 42. And unfortunately, our hands are somewhat tied because the previous auditor appealed in 2020. State let us move up 20%. We were around 15%, and there was an appeal process. And I think the previous auditor was the only auditor that's ever appealed the state. Because eventually that recommendation turns into an order. And so if you don't comply with the order, they threaten to withhold school funding and all types of things unless you go through an official appeal process. So that kind of, the former auditor said, we're going to do that. We're going to call your bluff. We're going to appeal. Did that. It took a couple of years to decide at the Board of Tax Appeals, and they found in favor of the tax commissioner, had broad authority to do the value the way that they wanted to do the value. And really, if you get into the details of that, the auditor was saying we should look at all 3 years of the previous cycle. And the tax commissioner said, well, we look at all three, but eventually we're looking at the last year closest to the lien date that sets the closest to market. And so they believe their job is to get values as close to market as possible. Where the auditor says, no, I think our job is to kind of have an equal equilibrium here and not just ratchet it up all the way. And unfortunately lost that. So now at this point, the current auditor doesn't have really any legs to stand on to appeal because we've already lost. And our prosecutors took on expenses to do that case. And I'm sure they would say it's, if the die is cast, we have to do it. So we didn't have a whole lot of leverage as we continually drug our feet trying to keep values as low as possible. But we believe we've made a little bit of progress. And unfortunately, that might be as good as we get. In Ross, we released the ones on our first abstract that got approved by the state. Ross was one of those that did get approved. I think we've reported that originally as 27% average. We're kind of, since the state's using a median, we're starting to report the median. The median in Ross Township is 32%. So you got half above that, half below that, hit the median of 32%. And that's reflects an average, I think, of 27% at that point. So that's where we're at. We just recently refiled Butler County. We had tried to get 36% approved and they denied on the last go round. They also denied Fairfield. They denied Monroe. Those are 3 in red in the last handout that I just had 3 of up there. So we're refiling for those and we're going to have to go up to meet what the state's mandated. They're getting a little cranky right now. I think with 3 left, there's this is your number, you gotta hit it. And so we're looking at Liberty Township, Monroe, Fairfield, still want to go up into the closer to the 40% range. And then Butler County as a whole looking at 39%. So definitely people are going to feel these increases because of, as I talked about, not only the inside millage move, But those school districts, all but Lakota and Fairfield, are at that floor. So in all of the districts outside of those two areas, percentage increases of the school portion of your tax bill is going to be closer to that value increase that you're going to see. And so that's, if you get a 40% hit in some areas, as we said, the median is 32, so you could have some in the 35, 36. It's going to be closer to that much of an increase on, again, the school portion of your tax bill, which I should know this, and Ross, but it's probably closer to 58, 60% of the bill is the tax portion. So, that part of it will go up by that amount. So that will definitely make an impact on the bill. So with the die being cast on the value element and losing, we've also had an opportunity, Senator Lang from here in Westchester, Butler County, he put in an amendment to the budget bill, tried to get that 3-year average back in, which would have lowered the hit for everyone. Unfortunately, that got kicked out at the last moment. The County Auditor Association was not in favor of that. Neither was the Speaker of the House, who's a former auditor. They don't believe the values of the problem. They believe the taxes associated with the value of the problems. And so they're kind of a little bit of an obstacle to us. Auditor Nick spoke in favor of that amendment and that kind of rider that was going through the House that a local legislator, Thomas Hall, from Madison Township had put up there. And the sheriff was in support of that. We had a lot of local officials that were behind that effort, and unfortunately it got kicked out at the last minute. So that was kind of one of the last hopes, really, since we're so far down the process here. But there are other avenues for the future that we're continuing to push. Unfortunately, for right now, it looks like we can't get any traction. One of the reasons that Auditor Nix could not be here today, she was in Columbus, and there's a group of auditors that are trying to tackle the tax side of the equation, the 20 mil floor, some of the other elements, maybe getting the state to kick back full 2.5%. Some of the things that they have done over time, which has put more of a burden on local taxpayers than the state. And so there's a roundtable group up there that are serious and want to make a difference on the tax side of the problem as they see it, and work in favor of those measures. So she's up there today advocating on behalf of taxpayers in that forum. But again, that's not going to help us now. So what's most recently been in the news is has come from Auditor Nix as former treasurer. She's seen how foreclosures impact people when the tax bill becomes a burden and they can't meet it. 2008 financial crisis was a big driver for those types of things, and she saw that impact, and she takes it, heartfelt. And so without any real official capacity, she's still suggesting to local governments that if there's a way to return some of the inside millage increase that local governments will receive, she's encouraging local officials to look into that. Our real estate manager will be kind of presenting, I think, individually to local governments and kind of explaining where you may be at. You have the perfect fiscal officer to kind of understand the ins and outs of inside millage and all those things, as being a former tax administrator in our office and the entire department. So she knows the ins and outs of that. And so you will be well advised is a good way to put it on the impacts that might be. But I know we're going to be stressing what the gains might be as close as possible now. Again, we haven't got the tax rates yet. I mean, we don't even have a final approved abstract, but as we get closer in a few months, we'll have a better idea. But right now it's kind of ballparking the situation and maybe just trying to get some feedback from the local governments on where they might be in that particular case. But again, it does show that Auditor Nix continues to try to mitigate the impact of this value increase.
Is there anywhere for the residents to find out what their new rate will be yet? I think you just said no.
We're not there yet. That once they get the values, then it goes to the state to present the rates to us and we apply those. Because I think we're still lining out the individual. We're kind of big picture subdivision. We'll go to littler subdivisions for individual neighborhoods that will still have to apply once we've gotten approval on what the bigger level is. So that still has to happen. And then we get the rates that apply to all of the individuals in the districts, that didn't get applied down to the individuals. So we're still a few months away from knowing more detail. When we have that, we'll definitely be, we'll have an area on our website at butlercountyauditor.org that will have, the changes. We'll begin putting those out there, and we're now on social media, on Facebook, and we're pushing out a lot of information just so people are aware that, values really are higher, but unfortunately there's a tax impact that we can try to advocate for how we get the folks in Columbus to take seriously. So that'll definitely be an area we push out information as well. And we'll be getting it to government officials as soon as we have it.
The ones that say they were rejected, who rejected them? Like,
So that's, again, that's the Department of Tax Equalization. Under the tax commissioner runs that. That's an appointee of the governor. And they're the ones that have final say and the broad authority to kind of run that as far as what you need to meet, get approval from the state.
if foreclosures increase substantially because of this, does that get reported to the Ohio Tax Commissioner to, like, to sort of say, hey, look what's happening? This got raised and people are losing their homes? Is there
Yeah.
a way to report that to them?
Right. They have been clear that they don't see that as their concern. That's not
Really?
their concern is to get values as close to the market as possible. That's their belief. So, and we've argued with that, and so has our local senator and local legislators. They've all been in that office and they've questioned that mentality, but that's, they definitely segregate those.
All right. I don't have any more questions.
Can we address him? Questions?
Quickly, we got,
Thank you for your efforts with you and the county commissioners going after this. I appreciate that. So back in the '70s, still believe it was when the state came out with an income tax, it was going to solve our problems. It didn't. Then in the late '80s, we came up with the lottery, it was going to take care of our schools, but it didn't. So why did the state need all this extra money? What are they doing? What do we need to get for it? Put it that way.
State is not going to.
Now, this doesn't go to the state. This goes to local governments. So the increases go to local governments. Now, I will say that the wealthier local government is, the state doesn't contribute as much to local government funds as they would do prior. So that will adjust as well with the formula. But as far as it goes, the increases themselves in the local taxes stay at the local level, and most go to the schools.
On the historical basis, have they looked at last 3 years or they usually look at last year?
Yeah, they look at the last three to get a trend line, and then they look at 2022, because this is affecting at January 1 of 2023. They look at 2022 sales almost distinctly to come up with the percentage increase. But they say that they review all of the three to get the trend line, and they look at 2022. We've said, let's get the average of the 3 years to use as the level. Unfortunately, they haven't done that the last couple go rounds.
And we have had bad, I guess the housing market was good, but it's bad from the taxes.
Because of the way the taxes are aligned to that. Yeah, especially with the Montgomery County, for instance, they only have one school district in the whole county that's at that floor. I did find a report on the state from 2022. I believe over 300 districts across the state, around half are at that. So it's real across the state. And there's a lot more counties that are going to be going through this. Several more are in reappraisals this year that haven't been talked about. They'll be reporting their numbers here quickly as well. And so that'll get a lot more attention as you get more counties kind of feeling. Yeah.
So, baby, you said that the Auditors Association declined to follow the request that was put forth by this county and other counties, because I'm going to guess that, and like you said, Montgomery, they're not feeling the heat because they don't have all those, but that will happen eventually. So eventually they're gonna want to, because eventually their schools are gonna get there. But they don't, they're,
The worry from the county auditor
Hand down the road to
association as
somebody
well
else.
is if it drops next, we're at a high point right now. Let's say the market falls apart in the next couple of years. Everyone will have to get to that point for 3 more years, and we gotta look at them again. And if we've got to look at a 3-year average at that point, that could maybe be detrimental, saving money for the taxpayer. Eventually, we couldn't get to the real value, we'd still be above it if we use a 3-year average. That was one of the talking points of this concern. But is what it is.
Will this levy be on the newer values or
The police levy is on the current values.
it doesn't?
The police levy will have zero benefit from the new values.
Is the rate adjusts,
Correct. The rate will adjust down.
as it does for everything,
Correct.
except for the school. They have their own exception to that statute.
We might get approval next year anyways, huh?
Thank you guys so much for your.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Any other questions, feel free to reach out. I've got some from.
I was gonna say, are you gonna stay around for a few minutes? Because I'm gonna hit it in just a second. So if you could stay for another 5.
Thank you, guys.
He doesn't live far.
No, he does.
No, that's true.
I'll leave you here for others. There's some talking points there as far as frequently asked questions, brochure about what the auditor does.
All right. Thank you. State Representative Jennifer Gross is in attendance this evening. Representative, would you like to take the floor? Do you have some talking points tonight?
I do want to say that every Butler County rep did pass the budget, which did take out the valuation, which Sergeant Wood didn't mention. So I was a little disappointed that they didn't stand for the people. Unfortunately, this isn't public knowledge, but my mom had a massive stroke, so I was in the ICU. I would have been a no vote. There were about, 20 that voted no. One of those main reasons is because this is a huge issue for Butler County. The things about the 20 mil floor that you need to remember is that 20 mil floor isn't the end of it all. So once you hit that 20 mil floor, you can hide things in the budget. So a lot of times the taxpayer doesn't see they feel the pain. But when you get your budget, there's that one line item at the very bottom that says, not anonymous, but it says it's unknown, or there's like a catch-all category there. So I'm very disappointed in the direction that we've gone with that, and I do apologize. My next town hall will be in Fairfield, and then that will be September 18th at their municipal building at 5 p.m. Next one after that will probably be in Morgan Township, because the one that I had before that was in Ross, so I rotate between them. As always, I'm very, very available to you guys, and I'm working on a bill that will affect you, which this body doesn't really have a problem with, but it's called the Free to Speak Bill, which means that if a citizen, if you're holding a public meeting because of our sunshine laws, a citizen needs to have the right to be able to speak to you. Otherwise, they have to write to you in an email, or they have to meet with you separately, as the 3 trustees is who I'm specifically speaking to. Not necessarily, the sunshine law means you can't talk business, but if a constituent wants to talk to you about business together, they have to come to a public meeting, and there have been bodies, not you, but there have been bodies in Ohio and school boards that have been shutting down constituents, and that's a First Amendment right. So that's something you're going to be seeing coming down, as well as a few other things. But I appreciate your time. I won't take any more of it, but it's my honor to serve Ross. And if you have any questions, I'm always available at Rep 45 at ohiohouse.gov, and that's 614-466-8550. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our best to your mom, Jennifer.
Thank you. I'll be here. I'll stay.
Moving on to reports. First up is the fiscal officer, Julie Joy Smith.
I have for you to sign and review certification for purchase order and checks written since our last regular meeting. On the giant pile of papers you have in front of you, you have one of them is a receipt report for the month of July. And then you have two management reports for the month of July. One is a revenue summary and the other one is a fund summary. So it just tells you generally where we are as of the end of July. Then there's also the more in-depth appropriation status report as of July 31st. Keep in mind, we're approximately 60% through our fiscal year. So that just kind of, those reports that do contain percentages, that 60% is what we're shooting for. Also for you to review and sign is the July bank statement. And then I also have for you to review and then for President Folau to sign the June credit card attestation. So no big surprises on any of the items I just discussed. And then in preparation for Mr. Brown's visit, and after reading some news articles, and then Denise Callahan with the Journal had called and asked some questions, it got me thinking about what Auditor Nix is proposing, and what does it mean when she says, you know, are you willing to basically hold the line on your revenue based on what we received this year and not with the new values coming into play. And so what I prepared for you is a white paper. If you're not familiar with the white paper, it's just a really high overview of questions, facts that I know them as they exist. I didn't want to bombard you with a lot of data. I have data. I have a lot of Excel sheets and I have a lot of things that I went through to kind of pull all this information together. According to what we were told, roughly an average of 27%. Our inside millages as they exist, we have inside millage 0.92 mils for the general fund. We have 1.5 mils in road and bridge and 0.3 mils in the road levy. And just kind of spitballing rough estimates. You can't hold these as a promise. I did the estimated general impact, and I provided the same information to Mr. Brown because I do have some questions. And he can take that back to Mike Stein, and I'm sure this is all going to come through the Budget Commission. I did not include the personal property public utility bucket because it has, the triennial has no impact on that bucket. Those, the PUP category is things like telecommunications companies, cell towers, the Rockies Express, those pipelines, those are all taxed under that PUP category. And the Department of Taxation sets the values on those. And because it's still considered public utility, the detail behind the scenes are confidential and private because they're personal property. So basically the auditors provided a pink sheet for the value for Ross Township for whatever company it is. And we have absolutely no abilities, and they go up and they go down. And if a company appeals and it's granted, it really can mess things up. So I did not even venture to guess what that would be. So I took that out of the equation. And then I went back and looked at triennials and revals over like the last 10 years. And Ross has historically always netted somewhere between an 8 to 10% increase. And now we're looking at maybe 27-ish, you know, and again, as Auditor Nick's asking for us to forego the entire increase amount or just what's above and beyond what is our normal. So that's and item number 2 for Mr. Brown to take back. That's a concern that I have just for you all to be aware of what processes are going to happen is it would have to be the Board of Trustees would have to approve it via resolution and we would submit it to the Budget Commission. And I'm assuming it's all going to happen as part of the amounts and rates portion of our budget process. The amounts and rates is something that we submitted our tax budget, our temporary tax budget to the Budget Commission, and we will get within 6 to 8 weeks a document from the auditor saying, here are your rates and here are your projected values. And do you accept them? And that's a function that will come in front of you and we say, yes, we accept them. Well, this would be our opportunity to say, we want to roll back a portion of our general fund, our 0.92 mils. Maybe we rolled back 10 cents of that. Maybe we roll back 50 cents of it. I don't know. That's for further discussion as part of the budget commission or our budgeting process. But again, that all is to be. And I'll just tell you up front that if you're going to ask me as your fiscal officer, my recommendations, I am absolutely not going to recommend to you for consideration rolling back the road or bridge or the road fund. That department, the costs of petroleum-based products, just the cost of road maintenance, our personnel costs. And I'm not talking salaries, I'm talking benefits. For all the departments, it's been quite a stretch, but the road department has, really truly benefited from the ARPA funding that was able to come their way this year and potentially next year for road projects. So for us to decline money in those two buckets, I feel would be fiscally irresponsible. But that's just my opinion, and I will give you all more information about that. But with that being said, the general fund, I think a discussion about that is probably necessary. And again, I only see this working if everybody kind of agrees to participate. The county is going to have to give up their portion. And the inside millage, just so for anyone listening, in any given taxing district, you can only have 10 mills of inside millage. And we have exactly 10 here in Ross Township with the county, the schools, and the township. We're the only players in that. And we all total exactly 10. Unless the county commissioners would agree and the schools would agree. Us doing it alone, and I gave you at the bottom, a very quick, if we rolled back 19 cents village, which is what I guesstimate our increase would be, and we gave up 100% of that, it would save a homeowner of $100,000 home $6.65 annually without anyone else participating. So just keep in mind, on a $100,000 home, 1 mil costs the taxpayer $35. So if everybody in the 10 mil gave up a cumulative dollar, that's $3.50. If there were 10 mils given up, that's $35. So, I mean, is it going to be helpful? Absolutely. Anything that we could potentially do. But I think all the players are going to have to agree to play, because if we do it alone, it's really not going to help our constituents. But it is something that we're probably in a position to discuss. So I just wanted you to kind of have, and this is all on the assumption that I understand what Auditor Nix is proposing. And this is the only thing that I can think of, excuse me, that makes any sense. Sorry. Pardon?
And I believe it's first year.
Of the, okay. So do I sound like I was off the mark as far as I understand the process? We would have to roll back a portion of our rate, and our only time to do that lawfully is through the amounts and rates process.
That's my question on what the,
And-
how they might do it.
Right.
I just know the proposal initially is just coming from the auditor, not the entire budget.
And that's fine. But to me, it seems like that's the avenue that they have, is to utilize the budget commission, and that's where it is. So, and all of this has to be in place before the auditor can create a tax bill. So values have to be set, rates have to be locked down. So there's a lot of moving pieces. And I'll just tell you from experience, from the election in November to about January 1st, that particular, it's just sheer chaos. It's chaos. I don't miss that part. I miss a lot of things about my old job and my old life, but I don't miss that 6-week period. I have a lot of sympathy for Mike Stein and the crew up there. So, but I just wanted you to understand, especially if you're following the newspaper and you're reading things, I wanted you to kind of have a high overview of what might be asked of us going forward. So, unless you have more questions for Mr. Brown, that's all I wanted you to stay for, so you knew where I was coming from. So, and again, I wanted you to have that document so they understand more. And if I'm totally off the mark, Mike can reach out to me and say, slow your roll, you got it all wrong. So, with that, moving forward, rest of my report, we have for consideration in just a few minutes, a need to adopt a resolution approving a then and now purchase order that exceeds $3,000. And this was for the payment to the Carriage House Shop for cruiser repair to the police department. And the reason it's a then and now is because we got an estimate and we knew that the estimate that they provided us was not the estimate that we were going to end up with. So I didn't want to do a PO to have to do a second PO. So I just waited for the final amount to come through from the Carriage House. So that is, I believe, the next line item for trustee Blower to introduce. And then there'll be one more.
Okay. The fiscal officer has discussed the need to adopt a resolution approving a then and now purchase order that exceeds $3,000 for the payment to the Carriage Shop, Inc. for cruiser repair in the police department. This resolution approves that purchase order. Move for the adoption of resolution number 2023-040, authorizing the payment of certain then and now purchase orders and obligations. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion? I have something for the chief. Since this was a criminal act to the cruiser, are we seeking restitution for that when it goes to court for final hearing?
Yes, we have court on the 17th.
Is that the prelim?
It's juvenile.
There's that. All righty, then we'll know how this turns out. Any discussion from, nope. Roll call, please.
Trustee McGurran?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Blower?
Yes.
And then my next item for discussion, because of the, we've had 3 insurance claims on 3 separate cruisers and all of the checks came in the same window. So I need to do an amended certificate to send to the Butler County Auditor, the Budget Commission, so that we can replace those funds within because these were unbudgeted items. So the money that's been expended, and I believe it's like 9,000 and change, can go back to the police department and back into their budget. So we need to do an amended certificate. And the three is the insurance claim for damages as a result of a deer strike. One was a broken window, and then one was vandalism thrown from a water bottle damaging a cruiser.
So I'm ready for the purpose now. In order to financially allow the receipt of funds received from Otarma Sedgwick for 3 insurance claims for damage to cruisers resulting from a deer strike, broken windshield, and vandalism from a thrown water bottle, funds must be added to the police department's 2023 financial budget. This resolution adds those funds. Move for the adoption of resolution number 2023-041, amending revenue in a fund and requesting an amended certificate of estimated resource from the Butler County Auditor's Office. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee McGurran?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Blower?
Yes. Purpose, approve to pay the bills. Move for the adoption of motion 23-108 to pay the bills as presented through the fiscal officer's certification of purchase orders. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee McGurran?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Blower?
Yes. Anything else from the fiscal officer?
No, I think I'm done.
Thank you very much.
We're lucky to have you. Your knowledge
all
on
that-
these issues is unbelievable. So thank you. Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to the administrator, Lori Kyle.
Good evening. tonight, first on the list is discussion on how the board would like to move forward with the demolition of the burned structure on Robin. I have reached out to the prosecutor's office and he did write a resolution that you have previously approved to move forward with that demolition. And after that step, I was asked if you want to pursue the next action in the form of a resolution, which would be quicker, cost less, or have the prosecutor's office pursue it through court action, which would take a little longer, but would remove the liability from the township. He does say his one concern in this process is if interested parties have any children. The property is in the name of two people. I assumed that they are husband and wife. The wife, we do not believe is in the area any longer, just due to past history with the family is where this knowledge is stemming from. They do have a child that is in jail somewhere in Ohio. So they do have at least one child, and there is the possibility of the wife alive. So there is the possibility of people claiming some sort of interest in the property. So I did forward you the email that the prosecutor's office did state the pros and cons. So I just need to respond to him with the direction to go, or if you have any additional questions that you need answered before you can make that determination.
So we have two options. It can be taken out speedy, but the second option, going through the court system, protects the township. So I'd like to see this structure with all the overgrowth of vegetation gone as quick as possible to appease the neighbors. We still must protect ourselves in this matter. So that's where I stand. Mr. Fisher?
Historically, what have we done in these instances? We had this situation come up before?
I haven't been,
Okay.
not while I've been here.
Okay. Yeah, I think I wouldn't want to expose the township to more risk than we would need to. And I assume it would be the time frame. They didn't give you exact time periods of what it would take, just that it would be longer. Yeah, I'm not comfortable exposing the township to bigger issue. Mr.
I
McGuire?
agree 100%. No way.
Court system it is.
Okay.
Thank you for all that valuable information.
Whose land does that become once the house is torn down?
With the resolution that was previously approved, the township will cover the cost of the demolition. And then we can submit a application to the land bank for a grant to be reimbursed. But in terms of who will own it, I can.
Is this the expedited foreclosure?
No,
Or
that's
this is-
the Oriole, that's the trailer on
Okay.
Oriole. This is the
So
burnt
what would-
house on
Because what they
Robin.
usually do, if the land bank's involved, they have the ability to take the property and then they scrub it, meaning they get rid of any and all delinquent taxes and return it to zero. And then if it stays in the possession of the land bank, then they can dispose of it. But a lot of times they will then, once it's clear of all liens, and they'll turn it over to the township to, so it just depends on which avenue they use.
It's the taxes, I would assume, are in arrears. The county isn't looking to collect or move quickly because of unpaid property
Might
taxes.
be and it might not be, but if it is delinquent, then having the land bank involved is awesome
Okay.
because
They'll scrub
I
it.
looked and I think it is, like way more than you would think.
Yes, I will confirm at the end of the process. Oh, the vacant property. Next, to make the board aware, the budgeting process for the 2024 year will begin September 1st. I do recommend including in the work session later this month, a discussion as to what that process is, just to bring everyone up to speed. The HR audit will begin on September 12th. You have an update on nuisances in front of you. The nuisance that was originally on the agenda has been taken care of, so that was removed from the agenda. It was a refrigerator that was on the property. So if the board has any questions about any of those topics.
Have none.
And then there's,
You haven't got down to Ren yet, have you?
no,
Okay.
no. So, yes, the next there are 3 resolutions. The first one to approve the amended agreement with Verizon regarding the cell tower that the board has previously discussed, to amend the personnel policies in regards to the educational expenses reimbursement policy that the board has previously discussed. And the final resolution is we did have a nuisance on Ren that the township did have to cut the grass. And so it will be putting the expenses, assessing those expenses to the property, the final resolution.
Purpose, during the June 15th, 2023 Board of Trustee work session, Trustee Fisher reviewed the new proposal from Verizon Wireless regarding the cell site lease modification. After discussion, Trustee Fisher was provided board approval to respond with the exception of the proposed date, June 15th, 2023. The following resolution accepts that revision. Move for the adoption of resolution number 2023-042, amending Ross Township Board of Trustee resolution number 2014-043, which enters into an agreement with new PAR DBA Verizon Wireless to install and maintain a cell phone tower, and also to enter into a land lease agreement for said purpose at 3133 Hamilton Cleves Road, accepting revisions to the land lease agreement and authorizing the township administrator to execute the amendment agreement. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee McGurran.
Yes.
Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. The personnel policies need to be amended to better structure the educational expense reimbursement policy for employees to attend relevant courses relating to the art and science and to the exclusive benefit of their current employment. This resolution amends the personnel policy to reflect those revisions. Move for the adoption of resolution number 2023-043, amending the Ross Township Local Government Manual Summary of Personnel Policies. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee McGurran.
Yes.
Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. At the Board of Trustees, resolution number 2023-029, the trustees declared a nuisance to existing at 2188 Wren Avenue, which required abatement by the township's abatement crews. This resolution certifies the abatement expense to the county auditor's office for assessment. Move for the adoption of resolution number 2023-044, certifying nuisance violation abatement expense at 2188 Wren Avenue to the county auditor's office for assessment. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee McGurran.
Yes.
Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. Next up is Fire Department Chief Steve Miller.
Thank you, Keith. For the month of July, we had our busiest month of the year. The department responded to 145 incidents. 105 of those were EMS related, 92 in the Ross Township, 12 in the village of Millville, and 1 mutual aid in the Crosby. did 40 fire incidents, 33 in Ross Township, 1 in the village, 2 structure fires into the city of Hamilton. Mutual aid run into Morgan, and you see we did 1 for each Colerain, Whitewater, and Harrison. That was last week, and all 3 of those were 3 separate incidents on water rescues. We're on an automatic aid card with Crosby, Colerain, Whitewater, even City of Harrison. So if they have a water rescue, our units are automatically dispatched. So it was a busy month for that as well. We received mutual aid twice from Morgan Township, 1 on an MVA, and you'll see with Morgan and also Riley Township, we called those guys out for a large animal rescue. We had a horse down in cross country horse farm on Millville Shandon, and the horse had been down all day. Riley Township specializes in large animal rescue. They've got skids, they've got tripods. So it was about a 2-hour ordeal getting that poor mare out of the stall into the stable and lifting her up to where we could stabilize it. Unfortunately, the horse didn't make it. Really kind of sad because I've had to put animals down and they ain't nothing worse in the world. So, but those guys were a huge help in assisting us getting that horse to where she needed to be. And we also received mutual aid once for Colerain Township on a mutual aid run. I put in your packet a few months back, I informed the board that Inspirational Studios applied for the grant to our good friends at the Ross Community Foundation. They received a grant to do an art installation at Station 102. I've got it wrong in the agenda. The work is actually starting on August the 8th and will include daily through Friday, August the 18th. They are looking for volunteers, if volunteers are willing to come by and help. Those sessions, morning art session from 9:45 to 11, and then the afternoon is from 12 to 1:15. That's really a rough draft of what you have. But Stephen Smith, who's the art director for Inspirational Studios, this guy does phenomenal work with the people at Inspirational Studios. So it really should be a pretty neat mural to get done. And I'll send the administrator picture so she can put it on her Facebook page and give you guys an update. The second thing I got for you is you'll have a motion to approve the hire of Cade Tatum, the position of part-time firefighter EMT. Cade just recently graduated from Butler Tech High School program. He came out of as a firefighter 2 EMT, and he did a lot of internship work at our fire department. And this young man just impressed the heck out of everybody. His work ethic, his manners, his thirst for the job really set him apart. He recently graduated, and he's currently working now part-time for the city of Oxford. But he has applied for us. The good thing about Cade is he is a Ross Township High graduate and a Ross Township resident. I think he would be a really good addition to our department. So there'll be a motion for you for that. The other thing I don't have on the agenda, but if anybody attended the Butler County Fair last week, Fairfield Township used our Gator 102. It's an off-road side-by-side vehicle. We got a grant through the Fenton Family Foundation for that back in 2019. And one of the parameters in that grant was to share this utility vehicle for departments that need it. It was a big asset to Fairfield Township for the fair. Next week, it's going to Westchester Fire Department for their country concert event that they're going to be using for their first responders. So it's kind of nice to get our equipment out because it gets recognized because it says Ross Township on the side of it. So that's all I have for you.
Did it earn you a free ticket to the event?
No. No. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Chief. Police Department, Chief Burton Roberts. I'm sorry, I'm jumping the gun here.
All right,
Department. You like.
thank you. Wanted to update the board on our road contracts.
Give me 1 second. We need the motion to hire.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to speed things up and moving right along. Let me put you on hold 1 second. Move for the adoption of motion number 23-109 to hire Cade Tatum into the position of part-time firefighter EMT at a rate of $16.50 per hour. This employment is subject to the completion of all pre-employment testing is in accordance with the current staffing summary and pay resolution. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee McGurran,
Yes.
trustee Fisher,
Yes.
trustee Blower.
Yes. Now the floor is yours, Paul.
All right. So just to update you on our contracts, the crack seal and retrace have been completed. And the paving contract paving is done minus they have to stripe Morgan Ross. That's the only thing left to do. Later in the meeting, I assume in new business, we're going to talk about an overrun on that, but just to give you the update, everything is done. Everything is done well. The other thing is the Black Road drainage problem project that we've been talking about for a long time. As you know, we had 4 or 5 inches of rain the other night. And, you know, the guy's house flooded there again. 4 or 5 inches of rain in one night, we have problems everywhere. You know, that's out of the ordinary, but I spoke with the county, Car Singh, the guy that was here, did a presentation, see if we could move it up at all. He is already, when that rain happened, wanted to move it up. So we kind of both said the same thing at the same time. But they're trying to put some of their projects on hold and move this up for us to get it started. We're going to do the work, but we need their engineering and stuff. So, Trustee McGurran pointed out a possible grant opportunity that I'm looking into for this. And I need the county's detailed cost estimate and a detailed construction plan to turn in to apply for the grant. So when I get that from them, I will apply for that grant and cross our fingers, see what happens. But we're hoping to get this job in this fall. So that's where I'm at with it. I'll keep you updated when I find out more. If we can move it up, you know, if we can get it done, if we can get any funding through this grant or not, if it's from OPWC, I will do my best to try.
Does the township have any responsibility or liability if this drags on a little bit?
It's not, as best my understanding, we're not responsible for his house. It's like your house, my house, anybody else's, you know, but the road floods is the reason we're doing this. So the water comes over the road and creates a traffic liability or problem. So we're hoping that this also helps that gentleman's house, but there's going to be a lot more involved. And if we were just doing the road, we wouldn't, like, we have to possibly get some easements. We have to possibly move some utilities because we're going to be going down about 3 feet deeper than what we already are. There's a lot involved, and there'll be some work on private property the easements will take care of that portion, which, you know, all that takes time too. So hopefully it'll help this guy out. Also, we'll, you know, hopefully solve 2 problems, but we'll see. It also creates possible problems on the people on the other side. So there's a lot involved to make sure you don't help one and hurt another.
That's something Mr. Singh is.
Absolutely, yeah. They're on top of all that, so. That's all I have tonight until you want to talk about the cost overrun and new business, so.
Okay. I'd like to take a moment and thank you and your employees, Jeff and Adam, for the work you done on the back lot here earlier this week, removing the fence post, taking out old concrete car stops. Brick and block from flower beds, and then bush hogging the tree line and getting that cut way back. And then hauling everything off that was left from the previous owner. It looks 100% better, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I think everybody can turn around, and when some of these outside agencies bring in their great big SWAT vehicles, they can physically turn around in our backyard.
Yes.
All right, now we can move on to the police department. Chief Burton Roberts.
Thank you. The monthly stats for July we had 518 total monthly activity calls. 336 of them were broken down with 2 of them were B&Es. One of them was a burglary. We had 12 domestics, one mental EDP, 3 TPO violations. We had 2 OVIs, 2 shots fired, had 1 suicide, 18 suspicious vehicles, and 294 miscellaneous calls for service. Of the self-initiated, we did 100 business checks, 14 vacation checks, and did 68 traffic stops for the month. Heads up on the B&E. Springfield Township last night caught the person who's been hitting Butler County, Hamilton County, breaking into, we got hit with Larry's Marathon and Skyview Market. The gentleman used a saw and broke in there and cut out the ATM machines. So he got caught last night. So hopefully we can get restitution for the people that are the victims, but it was good news that person was actually caught. So that's good news. I know there's been some discussions about our cruisers and the maintenance of them. Right now, they seem to be, it seems like it's one thing after another. 114 is pretty much on its last leg. It's a 2014 Ford Explorer. It's at about 170,000 miles. That may not seem like a lot of miles, but that's a lot of miles for cruisers, for police cars, especially with the idle time and everything. I've been speaking with Chief Carr at Trenton. He is currently going to be having 2 vehicles, 2 Ford Explorers that are going to be up for sale, fully equipped. The good news is they also match our color scheme for our cars as far as being silver. I think they're going to be almost 95% fully equipped. I'm not sure. I think the only issue will be our MDCs that we use versus what they have in their cars, but that's not going to be a big deal as far as transferring our equipment from our Explorers into that one if we're able to move forward with that. So we're in the early stages of seeing if we can make that happen. The vehicles have about 50,000 miles on them. I believe they're either 2017 or 2018. So that's an option. Still, once again, trying to get new cars. One, they go for about 60,000 if you can get them. There's still a big problem with getting the vehicles. I think the sheriff's department just had their Ford Explorers that were canceled. Ford's not making them for some reason, end up having to go with some Durango. So, I mean, it is just very difficult to get cars and the wait, and you could be waiting and next thing you know, your order get canceled and you're still trying to play catch up. So that's where we are as far as some vehicle news. Tuesday night, we did the National Night Out, which I think was a huge success. It's the first time I believe that we've done this in Ross Township. I just want to thank some of the people that were involved with this. Ross Township Fire Department participated. The IGA donated some hamburgers and hot dogs. The City of Oxford sent down 2 of their police officers. They did a canine demo. Rapids Towing brought down one of their vehicles. And I think the big hit for the night was One Stop. We got a Dunkin' booth donated, or that we had available for us. So we used that, and I think that was a big hit. Officer Little's wife made a great video for the police department, the music and everything. So I think that went over very well. And I think we're going to try and make it a yearly event for us. Usually in the past, we did it with the city of Fairfield, but I think we're going to continue to see if we can build on this and make it a great event for the community. That's all I have.
Thanks, Chief. Moving on to township business, old business, administrative building, and police station roof. At our work session, we spoke about 4 different companies, and we believe our best option is with a local business, Furniture Roofing. I did send him an email and invited him to attend our work session this month to talk about the type of work to be done and to bring his product. And at that time, we'll get you the color of the roof we want. So that's all I have on that. Anything from the board?
Not for me.
I have a question just about the chief. Can we go back?
Oh, absolutely.
Did you buy the 2014? Was that bought new?
It was.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I purchased that one.
All good. All right. So we're putting 17,000 miles a year on it roughly. Because that's
Fake, yeah.
roughly 10 years old. And the one up there is a 17 and it's only got 50 on it.
Correct.
Okay.
I think another perk to that is already outfitted because just the equipment and everything is about another $10,000 to outfit a police cruiser.
So that's the only question.
Okay.
Sorry.
Moving on to new business, paving cost overruns.
I brought that up and Paul and I have talked, emailed and talked about that. Completely understand that, why it happened
Okay.
and satisfied with the answers.
There was a, county got back to me today with, when we were saying it was gonna be roughly $20,000 and they're basically sticking with that number. I mean, it's a few dollars here or there, but it's gonna be right in that ballpark. So the issue was they have 7% of the amount of square footage of the entire road is set aside, is bid out as repair work. Well, that road was in such bad shape, it used all that 7% up. And then when they milled the road, they found some more bad spots. And then when they ran over it with their heavy trucks to start paving it, it just fell apart on them. So they had to fix that. So that's where that extra money is, you know, we're in a spot where you can't not fix it. And it's not, I mean, it's the first time that's happened in 15 years of my being here, but so it's not something that happens. Usually their 7% is a good number, but the road was in that bad a shape because it'd been forever since it'd been paved. So that helps.
That's about it in 2038.
Yeah, you can.
Any other new business from the board? No. Announcements, none from the administration. Anything from the board? Correspondence, the Ross Township trustees are invited to attend the Butler Soil and Water Conservation District 81st Annual Meeting on Tuesday, August 15th, 2023 at Hanover Reserve, 1905 Millville, Oxford Road. The meeting is free to attend and will begin at 6 p.m. with dinner. Please RSVP by calling 513-785-6659 by August 7th, 2023. Anything from the board? Okay, topics for the work session later in the month. Administrative building, police roof, we'll have the contractor in attendance to speak to us. Annual budget policy, building use policy. Future work sessions, we'll be talking with the fiscal policies review. Crisis communication, and then of course, we'll do anything from the board.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I was doing a little looking on the county website and I'm new and I don't understand just everything yet. I noticed that Ross Township owns various properties over on Plover. There's one up by the Speedway. Is it maybe 15 acres? What are those used for and what is not the assessed value, but what is the value? Is there a way we can get the value of those? And why are we holding on to them?
What's up by the drag strip? Did you say the,
Yeah. Hang on. It's in here.
I thought we owned that parcel there at Smith Road with the short leg that goes back out to 128 where that house used to be back in the
It seemed like.
70s and 80s.
Hang on. There's a large lot on, what I would call a large lot, over on Morgan. There's actually two of them. Approximately 3.5 acres and 0.74 acres. And again, I looked what the assessed values are on them. That's not much what I'm concerned with is what is the sale value?
Those two, it has been brought up to board.
Yeah.
Previous trustee Yordi would often ask from time to time. I believe there, someone is possibly interested in purchasing.
Yeah, I mean, they look usable. They're backed by businesses that are operating. The one up on,
In the floodplain.
They are.
the one up on, near the old racetrack, and it's, all I have is an address of 3133 Hamilton Cleves. That's almost 15 acres.
Well, that's our township. That's our road department.
That's our building.
Okay,
Because that soccer fields also belong to us.
okay,
Tell if you want.
okay. There were 12, maybe now 10 or 11 lots altogether, and I just wonder what they're worth. way we can find that out?
The plover probably came from a land bank years and years ago.
Over is the park and it's got numerous parcels in that one little lot. So you may be seeing 7 or 8 lots there, but it's just that one park.
Okay.
They're really small lots set out back.
Big enough for a house?
Well, I mean, it was a campground at one time, so it was set out in those small of lots.
If we're not using them for anything, I guess my question was, are they worth keeping?
It's the park. It's all in the park.
Okay.
So if you want to sell that too, please.
Less grass.
We'd have to have a appraisal done. We'd have
Yeah.
to hire an appraiser to do.
Okay.
Because the ones back by the Green, that area,
Yeah,
Morgan
on
Lane.
Morgan.
that was been discussed within the last year, I think. Should we keep them? Should we not?
Right.
And wasn't the thought it might just cost more to get the appraisal and all that than,
I think it was Jennifer had brought up about seeing if that property could go in to a TIF or JED. Speaking with Lori in the last month, that could not go into a Hamilton. Then we'd have to start a process with the city of Fairfield, which for that little acreage, I know I wouldn't be in favor of. We want to talk about this at our next work session. But no, it was discussed prior to that. We have no use for this property. It's a hole in the ground.
Okay.
I know there are 2 to 3 parties that are interested in it, but like Julie said, we would have to pay for an appraisal to make sure we got what it was worth. But it was originally those 2 parcels were originally bought to take the dirt out of there and place it at UDF. And they did not end up doing that. That's why those properties are, there's no intention for it. It was just to use the dirt off of it.
Okay.
I think it went, if you take dirt out of a floodplain, it has to go into a floodplain. There's some rule of that nature. Am I correct, Paul?
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, we have no use for that.
When there's an appraisal, would you just call a local Larry Tennis or Tyler Mingus or somebody and say, hey, what's this worth?
No, I think we'd have to use actually somebody that is, I don't know, just a realtor
Company.
do the appraisals? I don't know. I haven't sold or bought a house and
and there was some discussion of what type of bid, do you do a sealed bid and all that? Or do you just do it through an
Online auction.
mhm.
If it costs more than it's worth, then I get it. Just looking for extra money.
Good question.
Absolutely.
what does an appraisal cost? I know, I don't. 1,000?
Really?
I think we get 20 plus for the property.
It's vacant land, so maybe it wouldn't take too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're putting on new business for now.
A drone?
Yeah,
20,000 more than what we got.
yeah.
I mean, if we're not going to use it,
I agree.
We'll put that on put that on the work session and
Pay
go
for
through
new-
all the properties.
pay for a new police car.
Yeah.
Like you're thinking. Closing action. Is there any further business to come before the board?
No.
Move to the adoption of motion number 23-110 to retire to executive session to discuss the employment of and complaints against a public employee in accordance with Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22 G1. And the time is 7:14. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Trustee Curran,
Yes.
trustee Fisher,
Yes.
trustee Blower.
Yes. Our next work session will be August 17th, 2023 at 6 PM, Government Center. Our next regular business meeting will be September 7th, 2023 at 6 PM, Government Center. Thank you for attending. Move for the adoption of motion 23-111 to return from executive session to the regular meeting. The time?
8:41.
8:41. Need a second?
Second?
Roll call?
Trustee McGurran,
Yes.
trustee Fisher,
Yes.
trustee Blower.
Yes. Move for the adoption of motion 23-112 to adjourn the meeting. Need a second?
Second?
Roll call?
Trustee McGurran,
Yes.
trustee Fisher,
Yes.
trustee Blower.
Yes.